Okay, let's look at an exercise similar to your homework. The pseudocode here on the screen says we need to create a variable. We need to prompt for the user's name, output it to the console on the page. Prompt the user for the age of their favorite movie star, output it to the console on the page, and then output it in months to the console on the page. That's pretty good as far as plain English goes. Let's make some code. I'm going to switch over to Dreamweaver. You can use any code editor you want. The only reason I'm using Dreamweaver is that it combines line numbers on the left, it does some code hinting, and it also color codes the code so I can check for errors. Notepad++ on the PC, Text Wrangler on the Mac does this. There's Microsoft has a web authoring suite, and there are plenty of them out there. Use whatever you would like, and it is your choice. So we need to create a variable. What I've done here is, if you notice, there's HTML. We've got an HTML5 DTD. We have HTML as the parent, as a root element. We have a head section, and we have a body section. There's nothing in the body. We're going to use JavaScript to write to the body. I'm not going to go over a lot of the nouns and verbs or properties and values or functions that are talked about in the textbook, but I'm going to show you how they work. So we have some CSS up here. We've created a style sheet, an embedded style sheet that gave the body some styles, a little bit of margin to get it off the edges of the screen, a background color of kind of a nice off beige tan, and just gave a font family of Helvetica, etc., etc. So down here we need to add a set of script tags, an opening and closing script tag to put our JavaScript within. And to get started, I think our first item was to create a variable. And to create a variable, use the var keyword. And let's create something called, in case we want to see if the user wants some email, we'll say variable of want email. Notice I created this variable starting it with a letter. You can't start it with a number, but you can start it with letters. And let's set this as a Boolean to true. And we always end our statements with a semicolon. So there we go. We have a var keyword, we've named our variable, and we've set its value. Easy enough. So let's give ourselves a little bit of room there and go to the next thing. We want to prompt the user for their name. So I put in 2 forward slashes to start a comment, and I'll say prompt for name. It's in a very light gray. Hope you can see it. The color that Dreamweaver puts comments in is kind of a light gray. Now, we've got to create a variable to hold this name. So we'll say var is the keyword that creates a variable, and we'll say name. Awesome. Now what we need to do is assign it a value, or set its value, or command it to accept a value. So we'll say equals, and the command for, or the verb to get a prompt from the user is simply prompt. And notice I used or created the opening closing parentheses before I went back and put the value in. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put the semicolon at the end of the line, cursor back between the two parentheses, and put in the prompt. The prompt function accepts two values. The first one, I'll put in quotes, is what is your name? And you separate it from the second prompt by a comma. And now you want a default value. And my default value is going to be nothing, so I'm just going to put in 2 quotes because you have to have quotes there, otherwise the prompt isn't valid code. So I've said, what is your name? comma, and then just 2 quotes with nothing between them. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm saving it as index.html. Let us write this to the console, and the way you write to the console in Firefox, and this works in most other browsers as well, is we'll start a new line and we'll say, hey, console, and this is just going to be a .log, console.log. Log is a method for console. We're going to open and close our parentheses, and we're going to end this statement with a semicolon and go back in and tell console.log what we're going to put in it. And what we want to put in it is, let me capitalize that Y, your name is, space. Now we've got your name is, and we need to concatenate on your name is with the value of the variable name. In the console, you do that with a comma, similar to the prompt right above. So we'll say comma name. And name is, right here, is referring to the variable right there on line 20. So I'm using the variable name on line 21. I created it on line 20, and now let's put it out onto the web page. According to the textbook, one of the ways you can output to a web page is using an object, document, and we want to write to that document, so we'll use a method called write, document.write, and we'll just open and close our parentheses and end the statement with a semicolon, and inside there we want to say, within the quotes, we're going to say, and we've got to put in the HTML, all the complete total element of the HTML. So we'll start with a paragraph tag. We will say your name is, space. Now because we're writing out HTML and we're going to concatenate this with using the plus character, we'll use the variable name. We'll concatenate again the closing tag, which is the closing paragraph tag in quotes. So right here on line 22, I have document.write, open and close parentheses. Inside there I have in quotes the opening paragraph tag, your name is, closing quote, concatenate with a plus, the variable name, concatenate with a plus, and then the closing paragraph tag. We're building an element and we're writing out to the document. So we're building that HTML element in its entirety and outputting it to the document. Keep in mind document.write is deprecated. It's considered old school kind of stuff, so we aren't going to use it very often and just for the first week or two, but it's very useful when you just get started. Now one of the things you also want to do in this document, I believe, is to prompt the user for how old is their favorite movie star. So we'll say prompt for age of movie star. And a comment. Comments always begin, at least a one line, a single line comment starts with 2 forward slashes. So we need to create a variable for age. So we'll use the keyword var. We'll name this variable age, and we'll say is equal to prompt, because we're prompting the user, and we'll open and close parentheses, and we'll end the line with a semicolon, or end the statement with a semicolon. Inside the prompt, we've got to put 2 things. The first thing is, how old is your favorite movie star? And the second thing is whatever the default prompt text is. And again, I'm not going to put anything there. You could put any default number you wanted to. Our code depends on it being a number, and we're not going to check and see if it's a number or not a number. Next week we'll start doing that. So we put in a prompt says, how old is your favorite movie star? Now we need to get it out. We'll put it in console.log. So I said console, which is the object. Log is the method or the verb that's attached to the object console. And inside there, we're going to say, with the quotes. Inside the quotes, we're going to say, your favorite movie star is, and we've got to stop and add the variable for age. So I'm going to put, at least in the console.log, very similar to the prompt method. So your favorite movie star is, and then I'll put a comma, and I will put in the name of the variable, which is age. And then I'll put in another comma, and I'll put in the next item, which is, quote, space, years old, end quote. So if you look at line 26, I have the object console, a method of log, console.log. Inside the parentheses, I have open quote, your favorite movie star is, close quote, comma, age, comma, and then within quotes, years old. All ended with a semicolon. Okay, so right now we need to output this to the document. So we'll say document.write. Document is the object, write is the method or the verb. And inside document.write, we're going to say, let's add an opening paragraph tag and the content, your favorite movie star is. We'll concatenate age. And we will also concatenate the ending here, which is space years old and closing paragraph tag and a closing quote. So here on line 27, I have document.write. Inside the parentheses, I have quote with an opening paragraph tag, your favorite movie star is, unquote, concatenate age, concatenate quote, years old, close paragraph, and end quote.